This week's episode is sponsored by the adrenaline that is still coursing through our bodies right now, and the coffee.
And the caffeine. I'm so jacked. Man.
That we made at our houses before we came back to the office. Paul, Willie, all eyes on Donald Trump after the State of the Union address he delivered last night.
Yeah, that was a long one. I'm going to say my takeaway: Trump did what he had to do. Right, his greatest hits: economy good, boom.
Willie?
Yeah, well, shout out to Paul for my coffee mug.
There you go.
For the viewers, it's got our logo on it and all.
You're welcome.
But I would say he was remarkably on script. For a person who tends to kind of veer in and out of speeches, he stuck to his main talking points.
But the thing that stood out to me is, and I don't know if, the world at large has just become numb to this, there was a lot of stuff that he said that was either misleading at best or untrue. And we saw the division that exists in America sort of visualized for us when Republicans would stand up and cheer, even when he would say things that you can prove that are not true. And Democrats sat through most of those moments. And so you got a complete visual of the political divide that is ripping America apart right now. And that is something that really sort of stood out to me. That is just one thing we're going to be talking about today. Trump's speech was for Americans, but of course the whole world was watching for any clues where this country is headed right now.
Yeah, certainly the country appears to be on a war footing with Iran. Obviously, Tehran was watching this speech closely. We didn't really get a sense of which way the president was leaning. It was kind of remarkably light on that front. Yeah,
I think we were led to believe that he would dive in on that and make the case to Americans about Iran, but he didn't.
Yeah, I mean, some people thought that he might even be announcing an attack during the address. That, of course, did not happen. He talked about the negotiations and that they were still ongoing.
Yeah, and indeed. So we, of course, are Canadian correspondents here in Washington, and we're watching it through a Canadian lens. We are recording this on Wednesday morning to help figure out which part of that speech, that very long speech, matters for Canadian. I'm Katie Simpson.
I'm Paul Hunter.
And I'm Willy Lowry, here, 2 blocks from the White House. Don't forget to follow the podcast and tell your friends. Quick question: how many hours of sleep did you get, Katie?
Oh, like 4.
Paul?
3.5.
About the same.
So I was up on Capitol Hill last night for a State of the Union address, and I have to say it is a super cool part of this job. Paul, I know you've done it many times. Just to sort of give Canadians a sense of what it's like. You're in Statuary Hall, and so that it's this marble floor, huge statues, all kinds of little reminders of American history. And you get an opportunity. What I like about it most is you're right outside in the hallway where everyone sort of goes in. And so you get an opportunity to talk to people that you might not necessarily get access to cabinet secretaries, to high-profile lawmakers, to some of the special guests who are coming in. And you get an opportunity to ask the questions that are most relevant. I did try to ask Pam Bondi about what's going on with Jeffrey Epstein investigation. I did try to ask Marco Rubio, who is the Secretary of State, Pete Hegseth, who is the Secretary of Defense. I tried to ask both of them about what the next steps are in terms of what's going on in Iran. But largely when we're up there, I, at least in these kinds of circumstances, in this moment, I try to get in there and ask about Canada.
I was there for Obama's first address to Congress. I've been here for a while. The vibe was so different, man. It was like first of all, there's all these people. Like you look the first time you go there to one of these things. Oh, that's that person. Oh, that's that person. Right? I literally bumped into Rahm Emanuel on that. And it's like, oh,
who was Obama's
you're
chief
Obama's
of staff?
Chief of staff.
Yeah.
I'm sorry about that. Oh, excuse me. Pardon me. The producer I was working with, her eyes were like moon-sized. But everybody just wanted to see him. Like this was U.S. history happening, and there was a kind of it wasn't festive because there was a divide even then, but it was different then. And now it's like, oh, what's he going to say? Like how messed up might things be based on what is about to be said by the President of the United States, especially when it comes to Canada and because of the circumstances right now with trade. But it has evolved over the years from this kind of spectacle is not the right word, but there was a different atmosphere then to now.
But I would argue, I mean, it's always been a somewhat partisan speech, but it was pretty striking to see just how many Republicans were kind of lining the aisle trying to hope to get his
get a
ear.
selfie with him.
Yeah,
and
where not a single Democrat was obviously within sight. I would have imagined with Obama that might have been slightly different, at least in the beginning.
To me, that speaks. Whispers are that Republicans privately are inching away from him and no longer in awe of the power that he has. Or are they? Right?
Yeah.
They wanted to be near him. They wanted to shake his hand. They wanted to lean in and have those words, get the photo of themselves with Donald Trump because, as evidence there, he still matters in their eyes.
There is one exception to the Democrat thing, and that was the protester. That was Representative Al Green, who purposely sort of maneuvered himself to get as close to Donald Trump as he could as he was walking in, and he pulled out that sign that said "Black people aren't apes," because he wanted to remind the president and send a direct message to the president to say that video that you posted on social media that depicted Barack Obama, the former president, and his wife Michelle Obama as apes, that was racist, and he wanted to directly send that message. I interviewed him after, and he said he wanted to use that moment.
Dr. King did not allow the consequences to prevent him from going to Birmingham, and he went to jail. Rosa Parks did not allow the consequences to prevent her from taking a seat on the bus. That's where we are now. We are back to a point where people have to take a stand.
If you look at social media this morning, what are all the memes about? It's Rep. Green holding that sign, as well as other sort of key moments that took place. But I do want to jump into that. I think works to ask you, Paul and Willy, both of you, what stood out to you last night from the speech?
Trump baiting Democrats on his immigration crackdown. He baited them. He dared Democrats to not stand with him, to not support him in terms of his immigration crackdown.
If you agree with this statement, then stand up and show your support. The first duty of the American government is to protect American citizens, not illegal aliens.
And Democrats didn't stand.
Isn't that a shame? You should be ashamed of yourself not standing up. You should be ashamed of yourself.
Right. So what he's saying there is to Democrats, stand with me, stand with regular Americans, or stand with these horrible, undocumented migrants who are coming here and pillaging and threatening and taking your jobs and all these bad things. I dare you to side with them instead of me. And so you heard in the background there Ilhan Omar, lawmaker from Minnesota, who stood up and said, "You're killing Americans," or "You have killed Americans." And I think back to previous states of the union, and it's like heckling from the other side has happened year after year after year, from Nancy Pelosi tearing Trump's speech to the Justice Alito, to Obama, "You lie," right, to Marjorie Taylor Greene on Biden.
Similarly.
Like it's president after president. But you're killing Americans. She's not wrong on that. Federal authorities killed those two people in the pushback against
Who Trump didn't name, by the way.
Trump
remarkably absent.
Did not hear Renee Good, did not hear Alex Preddy, and that was one thing I was listening for, to see if there was any sort of recognition from Trump that Americans are angry about this, that what's gone on in Minneapolis is triggering massive amounts of blowback. And I don't know if I try not to let anything surprise me, right? But I was listening for that, and I notably did not hear that.
Yeah, you would have no idea that there was this kind of nationwide civil discourse and somewhat unrest going on right now by the tone of his speech.
Last night's speech, it really is an opportunity for Donald Trump to talk to Americans. It's broadcast by all the major networks. It's getting major traction on social media, that kind of thing. But really, Willy, this is about the message that Donald Trump wants to deliver to American voters in an election year.
Yeah, it's absolutely about the message that he wants to deliver. And unfortunately for us, the vehicle that he used to deliver it was the U.S. men's hockey team.
You're going to win bigger than ever. And to prove that point, here with us tonight is a group of winners who just made the entire nation proud. The men's gold medal Olympic hockey team. Come on in.
It still pains me to hear those words. Obviously, I'm still reeling, but, it's really interesting to see how this administration has kind of rallied around this hockey team. Also interesting to point out, it's like they slayed Goliath, which, to me obviously shows that Canada remains the kind of preeminent hockey nation. That's not what we're here to discuss. Although he did refer to the Canadian hockey team as fantastic. I could not agree more.
The one reference to
the
Canada,
one
I
reference,
think.
and it was an appropriate reference. They were fantastic, came up a goal short. But again, really interesting to see that this team has kind of been, in a way, co-opted by this administration to reflect American excellence.
And isn't that the underlying message, though? It's winning, right? And it was a great a metaphor from Trump's perspective, and he played it well. I think it's undeniable. But what is it really? It's the economy, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's America is winning. You are winning, right? Winning with me because I resurrected the country from the terrible days of Joe Biden. Inflation down, stock market up, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. If there's one message I think, if there's one message Trump wanted people to take away from everything, like the forest, forget the trees, but look at the forest. The forest is America is winning, the economy is good, vote for Republicans in the coming midterms.
We're trending in the right direction.
Trending in the right direction, and because of him.
Yeah.
Because of him.
100. But
right?
Back to your earlier point, Katie, I mean, if you kind of look at the actual specifics, I mean, yeah, sure, inflation has fallen. It's still at 2.4%, right? So there's
it's
a
not
lot
falling in the way he's describing
Well,
it.
exactly.
But the stock markets, like we have seen the record gains on the stock markets and those kinds of things.
But there were record gains. There was the records under Joe Biden, and then before him Donald Trump, and before him Barack Obama, and before him George W. Bush. I could go back to Eisenhower. The only one that didn't, the only president who didn't get a record on the stock market was Jimmy Carter, right? But those things don't matter. What matters is the message that things are good. So yes, does bacon cost more? Do eggs cost more? We can talk about gasoline and what the truth is on that. But all he really wants, all any politician wants, any president wants, is the vibe, right? Do you feel good coming out of this? Do I get the credit, whoever's doing the talking, or are you going to blame me? And he needs people to not blame him and to think only positive thoughts when it comes to the economy. And that was the real underlying message last night.
And this is going to be the test heading into the midterm elections, because this is an actual issue that actually moves people. We saw in the last election, questions about democracy after, Donald Trump's claims about election fraud, what happened on January 6th, those kinds of things that Democrats would base their argument around about why you should vote for us. They didn't resonate with Americans in the way that Donald Trump's two key messages were. One, we got to stop illegal immigration. Two, we got to make the economy better because the cost of living crisis is out of control. The thing is, Donald Trump may have really satisfied his base with a lot of the changes to the immigration policy in terms of ramping up the deportation, the mass deportation agenda that he promised, even if there are huge pockets of backlash. But when it comes to the economy, the question is, he can put that message out there, but do Americans feel it?
Yeah, I mean, I think that is certainly the question going forward. And it was interesting to see Abigail Spanberger's rebuttal, right? She really tried to hammer home that affordability point that, Americans were still hurting. I did feel like in that speech, I'm not sure if he really spoke to the working class American and really kind of displayed any kind of empathy for what they might be feeling at the bank or in the wallet.
I would add to that the economy and how much money's in your wallet and what's coming out every time you go to the grocery store is the OG issue for every politician who's ever run for office, right? And he knows it. And I think, what does it mean to the working class people, et cetera, and to the MAGA people? I've met MAGA people in lineups at Trump rallies in Trump 2.0 who say, things are costing more. But in the long run, this will mean jobs for America. For my kids, they'll get better jobs. So I'm willing to put up with a little bit more for eggs and bacon and beans and whatever, because I believe Trump when he says this will pay off in the long run.
And it's interesting if he almost extrapolates that perspective to the national perspective, right? That's the whole thing with tariffs. While they're actually taking money out of the taxpayer's wallet, they are putting money into the coffers of the administration, right, of the U.S. government. So he can say, we are raking in this money. And it's interesting to see if and how that'll resonate.
Yeah, but what did he say on tariffs last?
A lot of stuff that's not true. A lot of stuff that's not true.
This is the end of income taxes, maybe, without explaining that or without presuming that people will think, how can you possibly replace the money that the government is getting from income taxes broadly with the money that's coming? A lot of money's coming in from tariffs, but it's nowhere near the amount that's coming in on an income tax.
I believe the tariffs paid for by foreign countries will, like in the past, substantially replace the modern-day system of income tax, taking a great financial burden off the people that I love.
It's also American importers that are paying
Well,
for it. It's not
100%,
foreign. I know that this is for a Canadian audience, and many Canadians are very well aware of this, but just to set the record straight, who pays a tariff? Customs and Border Patrol bills the person who's importing the foreign good. It makes foreign products uncompetitive, and it means there are going to be, challenges and questions about jobs in other countries, because if you don't have access to the American market, or your product's not as available or successful or affordable, that's why countries don't like it. It's not because they're paying it. Anyway, that's what we're going to talk about. We'll return to tariffs in just a minute.
I love when Katie gets going on tariffs. I can just sit back and be a spectator.
We're going to talk about it some more. We're going to talk about it some more in a moment. But Paul, longest State of the Union ever. Trump gets to sort of put that in his book.
Yeah, he beat his own record.
But it was his own record. Yeah.
What do you make of his performance last night?
He's love him or don't love him. He's I don't like using this word, but he's a showman. Like, he knows what he's doing, right? Every president who gets up at that dais will make reference to the guests that are out there, but he knows how to do that. He knows how to deliver a speech. He knows how to look when he's delivering those lines. He knows how to, and it's his speech writers as well, but he knows how to weave the personal stories out there to make the points. I mean, it's hard not to sit and just watch it as television in many ways. You know what I mean? And that's part of the job at that point for any president, is to get up there and sell and to make people, to bring it back to the vibe and what the takeaway message needs to be from a Trump perspective and a White House perspective. He's very good at that.
He drew on his TV executive producing experience, right? This was a very well produced speech. Those moments. Again, I hate to bring it back.
You're
yeah,
going to
the
anyway,
hockey team, their dramatic entrance. It was good television with the World War II veterans, as well as the pilot from the operation last month in Venezuela.
He also brought Erica Kirk, who is the widow of Charlie Kirk, the right-wing activist that was assassinated last September. It's a signal to his base. These are the people of value that we're here to speak to. But we also saw Democrats, some of them wearing pins on their jackets saying "Release the Epstein files," with words sort of blacked out, like redacted, like a lot we've seen in the Epstein files. And some survivors of the Epstein child sex trafficking ring, they were present and they were in the chamber to witness this speech, to also bring attention to this issue, because they, as a way to protest the way the Trump administration has handled these kinds of things.
You know who else was there that I don't think got a mention were the astronauts.
Yeah.
Right? Including Jeremy Hansen. And what an opportunity at this time, at this moment, in this circumstance of the relationship between the two countries, to use those three astronauts, invited by Mike Johnson, Speaker of the House, to make the point that international cooperation works, that you've got a Canadian and three Americans about to go back to the moon for the first time in 50 years, all here together. And isn't that a grand thing? But it was not mentioned. But I thought it was a missed opportunity, and to say, hey, things can work when we work together.
I got excited for you when I saw that.
Thank you.
Speaker Mike Johnson, so this usually doesn't happen when you're at State of the Union. Yes, you have access to more lawmakers and you have more access to these high-profile members of the Trump administration. But we were just getting ready to do our last hit into the National at midnight Eastern time when all of a sudden Mike Johnson walks super close to where our live hit position is. And he was I think he was waiting to go on with another American broadcaster. And I just turned to him and said, "Hi, I'm from Canada. Can I talk to you?" And he just shrugged and said, okay, and walked on set with me. And so we got an interview with him. I asked him, what should Canadians who are watching this, Trump, what should Canadians take from this?
Look, there's a saying here that you should take the president seriously and not literally. And I think some in the media here and some Democrats have that reversed. They take him literally and not seriously, I think to their peril. look, I regard Canada as a good neighbor and a close ally, and I think those relationships will transcend all this time right now. We enjoyed our hockey gold there, and we had the team there today, but it was all in good fun and good spirit. We have nothing against Canada. I mean, I think it's important that we keep a good relationship with this close neighbor.
Take him seriously, but not literally?
Well,
but I mean, it like what? Okay, but he's also the leader of a country.
But that's the thing, right? But that's the
thing.
That is the thing. One of the things I was watching for was what he would do when he passed by the Supreme Court justices, who had just turned thumbs down, or the majority of them, on his global tariffs. And there were 3 of them who had voted against him, right? John Roberts, Kagan, and Coney Barrett. Amy Coney Barrett specifically being an appointee of Donald Trump, who went against him, at whom he directed that comment, "You're an embarrassment to your family," right? And what did he do at the State of the Union? He shook her hand. And so, to take Trump back to Mike Johnson, he's the president. Take his words seriously, but
at the same time,
you never really know, and that's the challenge for everybody who deals with him.
And I think that interaction, though, that was like the first indication that, okay, he's going to like be pretty restrained in this speech. The fact that he shook her hand, made no drama about it.
He still called it unfortunate.
He called it unfortunate, but I mean, compared to what he had been saying the previous days, really kind of.
And he's got other tariffs in the works as well, so it's like, the heck with you, I'll move on.
But that's where it felt like a campaign speech, right? Like, I think his people were saying, stick to the economy, stick to the immigration thing. We know you love tariffs, but don't harp on it. This is not what the American people want to hear right now. Stick to your kind of strong points.
I think that's exactly what this was. It was a pre-campaign speech. It's not his campaign to come, but his Republican campaigns were large kind of thing.
And ultimately, it is a reflection of him.
It's a report card, exactly.
Yeah, and of course, Donald Trump, in the days leading up to this, it was a significant blow to his administration, even though losing at the Supreme Court on his tariff case in that 6-3 decision, where essentially the Supreme Court said Donald Trump exceeded his authority. He did not have the power to impose some of his tariffs, all the tariffs related to, declaring an emergency and whatever the emergency Donald Trump says is, and then you can impose a tariff at will. But I think that this provided an opportunity for Donald Trump to again make that argument to say, listen, my power has not been challenged. My power remains just as strong. If not, it's even stronger. And he's like, guess what? I've got stronger tools and other options at my disposal. And that is something it's true. He does have those other options. It might take a little bit longer to impose them. They might not be as direct right away, but in the long run, he can remain the tariff man as he's branded himself to be.
And the other thing is to remember the audience. Forget the Republican-Democrat divide for a second. But he's speaking to Congress, right? And the whole issue with tariffs is who has the power to impose that kind of stuff. And broadly speaking, the answer in the United States is it's Congress, right? And Trump has usurped that. He's gone around them, and he's telling them, again, I'm going to do it all over again, but just do it differently. And what did Republicans do all last night throughout on various issues, including that one? They stood up and they applauded.
Yeah, it was remarkable. I mean, again, we have to remember, right, the State of the Union, while it's become an address to the public, it is at its core an address to the lawmakers.
Face to face, literally.
Canada, as we've mentioned, only came up once. And Willie, when we were having the pre-discussion to sort of get into this,
hockey again?
I mean,
I'm not going to traumatize you.
Please don't.
We're not going to. I am going to mention.
My 5-year-old saw me cry for the first time.
Largely, aside from Willie's feelings being hurt, Canada sort of dodged a bullet because it was not a focus. Even though Donald Trump reaffirmed his commitment to tariffs, Canada was not singled out or sort of degraded in any sort of way. Question to both of you. Does what we heard on Tuesday night, is that going to stick? How long are we talking about this? Please predict American voters for me.
Well, certainly the next 9 months.
The cynic in me says that we'll be talking about something else by Friday.
Yeah.
I'm not punting the economy and those issues, but I'm talking about the speech.
Yeah.
Right. Does what happened last night have legs? Right. I don't know. It's a fast news cycle. Who knows what's going to go on with Iran that'll change things, right?
Interesting fact about State of the Union. it almost never actually influences poll numbers that significantly, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's while it's like the viewership is high, usually around between 40 and 60 million. It'll be interesting to see what they are this time around. They don't actually historically move the needle. And with social media these days, right, Trump is so accustomed to just firing out his posts on Truth Social to an equally sizable audience. I do think this, to me, really marked the beginning of the midterm campaign season. It will be really interesting to see if he can stay disciplined, stay on message over the course of the 9 months. But I think to Paul's point, again, it is back to that kind of vibe. There were no big points of this speech, really, but there was a vibe. And unfortunately, I'm doing it to myself this time, served up on a silver or golden platter by the winning U.S. hockey team.
You know, they say the same thing about debates. However, we all saw what happened to Joe Biden in 2024. We all saw it.
Yeah, well, that was a moment.
That was a moment.
That was a moment.
Yep.
And I'm not convinced there was a moment last night,
Same.
Ilhan Omar aside,
Yep.
that will resonate in the way that did.
Yeah.
But last night, he with a couple of exceptions, especially when there was heckling going on, but he read the words. And he, like I say, he does that well, but he did it. He read the words. And the words were economy good and
Trump winning.
Win. Life's good. Trust me.
Economy good, border closed.
Exactly.
There you go, basically. All right, that is it for us this week. There's a lot to talk about, so we're not going to answer an audience question this week, but we will next week. So keep your questions coming. You can send them to washingtonpod@cbc.ca. That is all one word, washingtonpod@cbc.ca.
And don't forget to follow us on your favorite podcast app or watch us on YouTube.
And once you do, don't forget to share an episode with your friends and family. You are our audience.
And you can send Willie direct mail about the hockey just to either console him or torment him. But thanks, guys. See you next week.
Thanks, you too.
Thanks, Katie.